Podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Up and welcome to the LootQuest Role-Playing Podcast, Episode 0. I'm your host and Game Master Shampu, and I just wanted to take some time to sort of explain what LootQuest is and what you have to look forward to. LootQuest is an actual play role-playing podcast that focuses on the storytelling and adventure aspects of tabletop gaming. So each season will feature a brand new game, cast, and characters, and is typically going to span the length of a short campaign. So about 12 to 15 episodes of varying length. They're probably going to be about 45 minutes to maybe an hour and a half for each episode. In addition to the main season, eventually we're going to have mini one-shot adventures or Game Master player workshop episodes to help new Game Masters and players learn the ropes or, I don't know, maybe just enrich your current role-playing lives. And in Season 1, I have a game that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars role-playing game. The campaign itself is going to be focusing on the seedier elements of the Star Wars universe, which is to say all of our player characters are the ne'er-do-wells of the Star Wars universe. It's basically a bounty hunter's campaign. Well, it's time to meet our players. So we're going to do a little bit of a bio here, and I'll introduce each one of the guys on the show, and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves, their shows, and most importantly, who they're going to be playing. So I will start it off with one of our veterans, Caleb, from the Netflix and Swill podcast. What's going on, Caleb?
Not too much. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
First off, where can our listeners find your show?
You can find us on netflixandswill.com. That's with the letter N. Just Google Netflix and Swill. You can find it. I'm not doing all the legwork for you guys.
That's N like Netflix, not M like Netflix.
Netflix, Swill.
Ah, gotcha.
M as in Mancy.
First off, Caleb, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role-playing history?
Yeah, sure. I've always had an interest in particular D&D, but my mom thought that it was from the devil and I wasn't allowed near it when I was growing up. So when I was a teenager, I got a hold of the Neverwinter Nights, the BioWare game, played the shit out of that.
Great game.
And then about 2 years ago, I finally met somebody who actually, honest to God, had the books and was starting a campaign. So I jumped in, made my first character, and kind of became obsessed, as it were. Not too long after that, I picked up all the core rule books for 5th edition, and I've been a 5th edition Dungeon Master for about 2 years.
Badass. The world needs more Dungeon Masters. There's not enough.
Yeah, I really, I prefer it to playing, because I like getting into the minutiae, and I like knowing things that other people don't, but I'm excited to actually play a character for once.
So that's a pretty good segue. Who are you playing? What's your character?
Alright, so when you told me that this was going to be like a Star Wars themed game, where I immediately went was, I'm going to be a sex robot. So I'm going to be playing 38 Double D, a J9 worker droid, scoundrel class, and she was programmed for the most illicit form of love. Double D came online 7 galactic standard years ago on Tatooine after being after being purchased from a Geonosian droid factory. Due to a freak electrical accident, Double D developed a glitch and began acting independently, eventually altering her own code and relieving herself from her servitude to her owners. She has since become a somewhat successful spy and information broker in the criminal underground.
That sounds really interesting. I like that you say that the first thing that came to your mind was, Star Wars sex robot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to be in the future, but also somehow the past, like, get freaky with it. You know what I mean? Also, I look like the sex robot from Rick and Morty.
All right, well,
great.
that sounds interesting. We'll see how that goes. All right, and next up is John from the Now in Technicolor Podcast. What's up, John?
Oh, not a lot. Been looking forward to this for a hot-ass while.
Like a year, it feels like.
It does feel that way. But no, this is going to be great.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your show?
Well, it's Now in Technicolor. I watch pretty much whatever the hell I want to. I really enjoy stuff that's old that a lot of people haven't really seen or haven't really seen in a long time. And that's the premise of the show, really. It's to watch pretty much a lot of really old stuff. Occasionally, now, it has a couple of co-hosts with me, but sometimes it's just me. So, it's all good. And if you want to check it out, you can just type Now in Technicolor Podcast in your search engine. It'll pull up like Podomatic and iTunes and all sorts of shit, along with the Podfix Network.
Always have the Podfix Network.
Damn right.
All right, well, that sounds awesome. Now, why don't you tell us about your history with role-playing?
So my history with role-playing is slightly similar to Caleb's, about the fact that my mom kind of thought that role-playing and Magic the Gathering were from the devil, and I couldn't really play them as a little kid, but my uncles had been playing D&D like my entire life, and then when I was 17, I finally started playing with them. We set up a group with like me and my cousin, some friends, and my uncles and a friend of theirs, and we started playing D&D like every Friday for like 6 years. We played a bunch of campaigns. Really, really enjoyed it. A lot of it was like second edition, so it's a little different from the way they do 5th edition nowadays. But man, we had a lot of really good times, and we only played one good campaign the entire time we played it. Otherwise, we were all evil bastards.
Well, then at least you'll be right at home with this one.
Oh yeah, tons of backstabbing.
This is going to be the actual first time I get to full on play like an evil character in like a group of evil characters, but that's always like kind of how I lean, because I feel like it's more interesting. So
it's definitely really fun, and you get to do a lot of really interesting stuff. Unlike I guess most people, my first ever character wasn't a fighter; it was a cleric.
Nice.
And then awesome. I played like a monk and fighters and magic users and a lot of assassin. Yeah. A lot of assassin mixed with other things.
My first character was a half-orc fighter who became a cleric.
Very cool. Very cool. My favorite characters were my 2 assassin characters. One was an assassin cleric and one was an assassin magic user, and they were both in the same world, just set at different time periods. And I had come up with this elaborate story about how the one from the previous time period was actually the trainer for the one that was in the future time period. So it was really, really cool.
Very good. All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your character, John?
All right. So my character, I pretty much tried to set up as close to an assassin magic user as I could. His name is Hamrick, and he is a Fringer Force adept. And he was originally born to parents in the slave trade, to a father that was forced to fight in underground death fights and promises of freedom. And then when he was 5, his father was killed because he became irritable and tried to set up a rebellion against the master in which he served, to which he was killed. And then as he became older, he was then implemented it, given fighting training and implemented into these death fights, and actually excelled. And during the death fights, he learned that he could actually predict oncoming attacks, and then by himself actually worked on improving these abilities. And when he turned 18, there was a specialized fight which he was chosen for, given extra training. And during this period in time, he basically willed a bunch of other people into following what he said, and set up an attack on his captor for the same night that the fight went on. And during that fight, the people then rushed the arena and started killing a bunch of people, while he slipped through, went to his captor, ended up getting cut right across the jaw during the entire kind of encounter, but pretty much destroyed the guy that was his captor, and slipped away into the into the crowd, and from there has been working as a mercenary since then for about I figure about 8 years.
Cool.
So longer than my entire life. My character is 7 years old.
I feel like I do have to add about the picture that you found for your character. I know you were going for like a gruff,
it's really hard to find
streetwise space redneck.
Yes.
What you found was Johnny Lawrence from The Karate Kid with the most punchable face I think I have ever seen.
This is true, and I had no time to improve upon it, so it's just what it is, man. He does look like Johnny, though.
He's definitely Johnny. 100% sure.
Oh, yeah.
And last but certainly not least is our role-playing rookie, Dave from the Super Movie Bros podcast. What's going on, Dave?
Super excited to be here. This is the first time I'm ever playing a tabletop game, and it's kind of nice to be breaking my tabletop RPG cherry with a Star Wars game, because I'm kind of like a Star Wars, not guru, but like I know a lot more than the average Star Wars fan. So it's a nice place to be.
I felt like that was definitely the only way that we could properly get you indoctrinated into the tabletop life.
Yeah, because like fantasy is great and all. Like I would be down if we were doing D&D, but like this is so comfortable for me that like I feel like I might be able to fake it to make it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I totally understand. So with that in mind, why don't you tell us a little bit about Vizzisk?
Yeah, so Vizzisk is a Trandoshan, and he is obviously from Trandosha, but he is the second son of a clan leader. And while on a Wookiee hunt, which is Trandoshans are known to do Wookiee hunts, it's a rite of passage for them, he allowed his older brother, basically the heir to their clan, to be killed by his inaction. This caused him to become an exile, and his father and his family shunned him, and he has basically been making his way through the Outer Rim as a hunter and mercenary for hire. And that's really where he stands. He's built up a bit of a reputation, but not one quite up to the level to get the big jobs that he needs to get by in the galaxy.
So he's not really on the Bosk level, but he's working his way there.
You know, I mean, Bosk is like 5-star. I mean, you know, Vizzisk is working somewhere around like 3 stars on Yelp.
Nice. Well, I know I speak for the rest of our listeners and role-playing crew that I'm really looking forward to seeing how Vizzisk sort of develops as a character and evolves from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that, like, you know, the way he starts, Trandoshan is his primary language, but he does also speak Basic. But there will be some disconnect between the translation and eventually through his interactions with his new squad mates that he'll meet on this mission, he might develop a bit of a personality and a little bit of understanding of the basic galactic language.
See, I know one of the things you were telling me before the show was that he doesn't really understand like idioms or humor.
No, it's super literal. And it's he can make jokes himself because he gets them, but when they're made towards him, he doesn't get them. He takes them at complete face value.
Oh, I can already see how that's gonna sort of develop into some really humorous situations.
It just means he's an uber asshole. It's what he means. He's your classic jock asshole. But also one of the things I love about him is a Trandoshan is not afraid to eat anything. So throughout the show, I mean, a Trandoshan is moved by one thing. It's the lizard brain, and a lizard brain wants to eat and make other Trandoshans.
Perhaps some foreshadowing coming there. I feel like that's very intentional.
100%.
Nice.
And as a character, he is not like, if you are a squad mate and you're stranded alone with Vizzisk, be afraid. If he gets hungry, you are the only thing left on the menu.
Very cool. Very cool. Dave, why don't you tell me where we can find a little bit more of you and your podcast?
You can find us on Twitter at SuperMoviePod. You can check us out on our host site, Podbean. It's supermoviebros.podbean.com. And you can also check us out on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else that you can really listen to podcasts. We're available all on there. It's tons of fun. Hope you laugh with us when you listen.
And you will, I promise you. And if you don't, money back guarantee. 100% of the fees that you pay towards listening to Super Movie Bros will be refunded upon any dissatisfied listen.
That's right. Just email us, supermoviebrospodcast@gmail.com. You will get a full refund for your free listen.
Well, there you have it. There's our cast and crew for the LootQuest role-playing podcast. I myself am not playing a character. Obviously, I am going to be the game master. I guess just a little bit of history about myself when it comes to role-playing. I was initially introduced when I was a freshman in high school, and this was actually the very first game that I ever played. Ran a few sessions as a Gamorrean Force Adept, which should be impossible, but it was really fun. That character was terrible, and I think he had like a 7 intelligence. He was dumb as a bag of hammers. Yeah, it was great. So that was the first character I played. A little ridiculous. And then I took a long break, like a long break. I don't think I played after my freshman year until I was in my mid-20s. Played a few games here and there. The problem was we would always play a few games, and then scheduling things would happen, and we would end up losing our GM. So I learned how to GM so I could start playing again. Currently, I am a player character in a bi-weekly campaign that's been going on for like the last 6 or 7 months. I played alcoholic gypsy. It's probably the most fun I've ever had with any character because he is just irresponsibly drunk. Yeah, I love role-playing. I'm really looking forward to it. As soon as I thought about the concept of having a live play podcast, I was like, I got to do the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars role-playing game. Sadly, this game has been discontinued, so it's actually kind of hard to find materials for it. But it's in my opinion, by far and away the best Star Wars game that's ever been made.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, I will be sharing all of the character information on our Twitter. That's just at LootQuest. Can't believe that wasn't taken, honestly, because I spent forever trying to come up with a name for this show. Everything is taken. Literally everything you could think of with regard to role-playing, already taken. So hit us up at LootQuest, check out our characters, and I guess with that in mind, let's start this adventure.